Hi Flosstube, this is Kim back again with another cross-stitching weekly update. This is video number 83 and today is the 24th of August 2020. I worked on 4 different pieces this week. I have another finish and it was nearly a full non-full coverage week. But then at the end I was like getting the jitters. I had to get some full coverage in there. So first piece I worked on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and got my finish, and I have not ironed it yet, is my Haunted Mansion Stretch Portraits by Good Morning Maui on Etsy. So in 3 days I did 2,500 stitches for a total of 5,200 stitches on this piece this month. It's my fourth finish of the year. And there you go. So I finished this portrait of the high wire girl over the crocodile. And again, this is on 28 count Monaco that I dyed myself. So that is my 4th finish of the year. I'm now down to 19 whips and 11 of those are full coverage. There's, let's see, the other non-full coverage that I want to finish this year, Familiar, Catalog of Witches, Familiar Sal, the Blackwork piece, the Roly-Poly Santa and Mrs. Claus. So potentially 3 more non-full coverage, which means I'm going to have to start some non-full coverage, either the end of this year or the beginning of next year, just so I have some variety when I need something besides my full coverage, even though I do really like it. So that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The rest of Wednesday and on Thursday, I worked on my Blackwork, 52 weeks of Blackwork by Peppermint Purple. Again, if you want to join this free sal, look below in the description box for the Facebook group. And I did 4 more blocks. So I did the 3 blocks there on the full row and then the block with the words. So now we have a full quote, double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn, and cauldron bubble. That is a Shakespeare quote. I believe it's from Macbeth, maybe, if I'm remembering correctly. And then I also did 2 more rows of border. So I am ready for the next 9 weeks of Blackwork. And just coincidence, since I am doing a Halloween / fall theme on this one, this is 32 count Jobelin in Cauldron Bubble by Color and Cotton that I got in the Halloween box last year, I believe so. 2019 Halloween box. So there is it closer up. And this will go away probably for another month. And then while I was getting everything, checked off that I needed to work on for the month, I pulled out Big Red Ship of Life. I am on the 3rd page on the 2nd row, so right here. And I worked on this one the end of Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I did 1,700 stitches. Sorry, I bumped the camera. And that's where we are. So this is 1/1 on 28 count Mushroom Lugana by MCG Textiles and DMC 3808. And so there's the whole thing so far. Let me fold it up where you can see that page closer, where I can hold the fabric. Okay, so what I did is I brought this the rest of the way down. I brought this the rest of the way over. I did this big tree and everything in here. I brought the second mast the rest of the way down. It did the deer all the way down there and this giant motif. So for October, we're going to finish page 7. And so all I have to do is fill in the blank spot, which is that, mostly that giant motif, to fill in that whole spot. So that should be pretty easy. And then page 8, you see it looks pretty light in comparison. So I'm looking forward to that for the remainder of 2020. So that is Big Red Ship of Life by Ink Circles. Again, this is my 4-year project to represent our time here in North Dakota. I'm purposefully doing 1 page every 3 months to get it done in about 4 years. So we'll actually hit our 2-year mark come the end of October. That's when my husband got here, and so that's when the time is based off of when he got here. But I didn't start the piece until December of 2018, so that's why I'm a little behind. But, you know, once we get orders and I know when we're leaving, then I'll probably be stitching on it a lot faster if it's less than 4 years. So that's the plan. And then yesterday I was like, okay, what do I work on for one day? Do I pull out another non-full coverage? And no. Especially after watching, I watched Jemima the Rocking Stitcher, her video, which was to recap her July bingo. So she's pulling out all these full coverage pieces, showing beautiful progress, and I'm like, I need to work on my full coverage. So I pulled Museum Shelf back out, Supersized color expansion, and I told you I was going to do a few more colors on this page, and then, or on this page, and then work on this page. So that's what I did yesterday. I put in 800 stitches. So I did 3 more colors on this page, which was over 400 stitches. And then I started on the black down here. So that's the whole piece so far. I plan on working on this a few, more, because now I have everything, all of my personal goals for, what I want to work on each month. That's done for August, and it's only the 24th. So we have like 8 days left. So I'm going to work on this more, but then I don't know what else I'm going to pull out. If it's going to be more full coverage, or if it's going to be one of my other non-full coverage pieces that I haven't met my goal yet for the year on. I don't know. But one thing I got to make it easier is a clip-on tablet holder. So it clips onto the edge of a table or anything here that you can possibly, get it to reach. And this is the part that moves up or down, so you can adjust it and tighten it. And this is like really well padded, isn't going to mar up your furniture. And this is adjustable, and it's really strong. It's not like an OttLite that's got no tension to it. So this, and they say to use either a circle or an S shape, like I've got this part into an S shape, to make it stronger, because as I have this clipped to my table and my tablet in here, and I go to mark my progress on Pattern Keeper, it does shake a little bit, just because the weight of the tablet, but it's not really bad. So, but this also means that I have it like right here, so the tablet's right in front of me, whereas before I had this, I was in my 2 different spots where I stitch in the house, I had my tablet right here, so I was constantly doing this, which is fine when you're feeling well enough, but when you have a headache, it starts to make the headache worse, to keep changing your focus. And this will also save time, because I just have to, I don't even have to move my head, I just have to move my eyes to look up from my whip to the tablet. So I'm enjoying, and this rotates. So I will put a link in to this on Amazon, where I got it. I know some people have floor, like tablet holders that sit on the floor as well. So it just kind of depends what your setup is for stitching and where the best place is to hook something up or let it sit on the floor in front of you. Let's see. I guess we'll do the drawing now. It's time to see who wins the giveaway for Macintosh Mill. I had 33 people give me their favorite variety of apples. So, of course, I had to bring that information here. Granny Smith and Honeycrisp were tied for first place with 9 people interested in both. Macintosh had 4 who said that was their favorite. Pink Lady also had 4. Gala had 3. Golden Delicious had 2. Fuji had 2. Cortland, Jonathan, and Yate all had 1 apiece. I have heard and tried all of these varieties except for the Yate. I've never heard of a Yate. So that's all interesting. So out of 33, I did random on random.org, chose a number, and it turns out to be Sandy Ego Stitcher. So Sandy Ego Stitcher, I will comment on your comment from the video from 2 weeks ago, and we'll get your address and mail this off to you. So again, she gets the cover sheet, the chart in all the directions, which is one big folded up piece of paper, and the remainder of my floss so that she can try to match the colors. So congratulations to Sandy, and hope you enjoy Macintosh Mill. I have purchased 2 new Hades this week. One of them I knew was coming. The other one just snuck up on me today. This is the first time that I put in a special request at Hade, and I decided that I really liked this piece by Randall Spangler as a companion piece or complimentary piece to Sunday Delight. But they're both older charts. They're smaller in size, and so that, you know, the detail's not as good. But since they were both about the same size, I didn't want to go bigger. So what I did is I requested a color expansion for the second one, just to increase the detail a bit more so you can see everything on it. So what I requested was 125 colors, the same amount of colors that's in Museum Shelf. And that released on Thursday. So I purchased Midnight Munchies color expansion. I just think it's really cute. This little dragling trying to sneak a snack at midnight. And look, he's got a spy. Little black kitty cat watching him. So I just loved, you know, there's cookies and strawberry preserves. And you have the sugar jar, olive oil. This is the big cookie jar and baking soda. And then there's some garbanzo beans back here, along with the clock. So if you look at the mock-ups between this, the color expansion, and the original, you'll be able to tell there it did certainly make a difference in the blockiness of the colors. So, and you can read everything better. So I look forward to stitching that at some point. Of course, I think I should at least get a lot further along on Sunday Delight before I work on that one. And then the other one I bought just before I started filming. I saw Michelle put a post up that Cheryl Baker's art was going to be retired effective 1 September. And I have had one of her charts on my wish list for a couple years. Almost since she first came out on Hade. Plus, she's one of the people that I've met in person when we lived in Omaha at the Omaha Summer Arts Festival. I met Randall Spangler and I met Cheryl Baker. There was, God, I can't remember his name right now. One or two other of artists that were also licensed with Hade were there. But these are the 2 that I met and bought some prints. So I bought 2 of Cheryl's prints. One of them is the chart that I bought today, because even though I'd rather have the chart and not stitch it, then regret not buying it and it no longer be available. So the chart that I bought, I've talked to you about it once before when I considered buying it, is A Pirate's Life for Me. And because you know I'm a parrot lover anyways, and this is a quirky little hyacinth pirate. And if I stitch it, my idea is to crop out a good part of the design and just do the parrot. But we shall see, because it is supersized color expansion, or supersized max color. So it's like 700 and something by 999 with 238 colors. But, you know, if I crop it, that's not as bad, right? It's not as big, not as many. You don't have all these colors down here. Yeah, try to get it without the glare. So, I mean, it looks really cool, but, I mean, do I want to spend my lifetime stitching it? Or do I just want to focus on this fun little hyacinth? So I bought that chart just to have it. And then the other one that I have been, this is actually framed in on my wall because this is my favorite piece of her art, but it was never sent to Hade to chart. Anne of Fiber Floss and Fiction, I knew that this would have been one that she had to have if it was ever charted, but it wasn't. But I do have a print, and I have it hanging up between our bathroom and our closet, and I see it every day, and I really like it. This one's called The Librarian. So, little fox, like steampunk librarian. Really fun piece. I would have enjoyed stitching this, but I'm glad I at least have a print from her. So I will also link her artist page down below. I posted already in Full Coverage Fanatics with the link so that you can see her art and see if, I think there's 4 pieces of hers that have been charted in a couple different versions. So you can see if any of them tempt you before they all retire on, so the last day to get them will be 31 August. Let's see, what other stitching content do I have? That's all my stitching content, so if that's all you're interested in, I'll see you next week. Time for some life updates. School starts for us this week. My oldest daughter starts 3rd grade on Thursday, but on Wednesday is kindergarten orientation, where they do some testing to figure out where each child is at, and then they assign them into classrooms accordingly to have a balanced classroom, so you don't have all one classroom full of kids that have been to preschool and the other classroom kids who haven't and still need help learning their letters. So that testing will be on Wednesday afternoon. We found out her teacher on Thursday. She goes to half a day of kindergarten on Friday and then starts full days next week. So it's a full week. Today we met the third grade teacher. We had open house, but open house was outside. So across the whole front of the school, they had tables about 10 feet apart, 12 feet apart. And we all had appointments every 10 minutes. There was another set of parents coming in. And so we were able to socially distance. Everyone had masks or face shields on. And we're able to talk to the teacher, meet the teacher, ask some questions, get some paperwork, and find out, the other grades are going to be doing some testing at the beginning of the year as well, just because of how the previous year ended, to see where the students are at after they did their distance learning from March through the end of May, and then go from there to see what they need work on and where they are at in the curriculum. Plus, students, unless their parents take action, can forget a whole lot during the summertime anyways. So that'll be what's going on for us this week. The other thing, if you watched some of my Instagram stories, you'll see that the base here sent 6 B-52s to the UK. Forgive my pronunciation. They went to Gloucestershire. Okay, if that's the right county. Sorry, I butchered it. It's one of those words that has looks like more letters than you actually pronounce. But they went to RAF Fairford to do some training from there. I don't know how long they'll be there. It's not my husband, not his squadron. It's the other squadron here. But that means my husband has been busier this past week and this week because of it, and also a few other things that have happened. My husband has had a very busy week this past week, kind of acting like the man in charge, even though he's not officially the man in charge of the squadron. So it's been an interesting week. And then he's got some other things going on. So just trying to support him. I'm glad that I know, even though I've been separated for almost 10 years now, I still have that knowledge of how ops and maintenance work together, and the flying schedule and inspections and all this, so that he can actually talk to me and I can understand what he's going through. So that's what we're doing this week. For Air Force Story this week, I had a really good question from Tess in my comments last week on the talking about the nose art of the two B-52s that returned from the boneyard. She asked, do all jets have names, and who names them? Well, that's a good question. Who names them? It's usually ends up being the maintainers. But when you're talking about names and nose art on airplanes, you have to understand the history of it. All the way back from World War I through every conflict we've had since then, and not just the U.S., but other countries as well. Aircraft started to get nose art because back then, and it's not the way we run things right now, but you had what we called hard crews, whereas Airman Snuffy and the air crew always flew on the exact same jet, tail number 1, we'll say. So tail number 1 was always flown by the exact same people, was maintained by the exact same people. Unless something happened to that airplane and it was broke, then they might move to a spare. So all during World War I, World War II, they're dogfighting, and it was a way to what's the word? Not only identify your aircraft, but to strike fear in your enemies. Or it could be a morale booster when you think of like the pinup girls painted on the sides of airplanes. That was more of a morale booster. Or if it was a scary type nose art, that was to put fear into your enemies, because when they're dogfighting, they're close enough they can see your nose art on your airplane. So nose art was a lot more common back in previous wars and engagements. This is a book that we happen to have thanks to my mother-in-law. It's really cool. It talks all about the history of nose art. But here you have an example, not exactly a scary nose art. This was more since this is a bomber, it's not dogfighting with, it's not a fighter jet. It's not dogfighting with other fighters. So this is more a motivational nose art for the crew that always flies in this plane. And then you see here, this is to annotate all of the bombs they have dropped on target for that conflict. So a lot of times the bombers would keep track of their bombs they dropped over the time period of that conflict, and the fighters would keep track of their kills on the side of the airplane. And that, to a point, still happens today. I'm going to show you just a couple pictures in here. I mean, there's over 200 pages of nose art and history in here. But just a couple pages. So, okay. And I'll read a paragraph to go along with this picture. There's a picture of a B-52G model. I'll hold this up. You can see Bugs Bunny there, if I can get close enough. So Bugs Bunny there saying, "What's up, Doc?" So that was for that particular aircraft. And it says, during Desert Storm, the B-52G formed the backbone of the U.S. Air Force's bombing campaign. Indeed, the aircraft, so not this particular one, but all B-52Gs, dropped about 1/3 of the ordnance delivered by the Air Force, as well as firing some of the opening shots of the campaign, undertaking more than 1,600 sorties, that's flights, and expending nearly 26,000 tons of bombs, which was 29% of the total tonnage delivered. The B-52 had a devastating effect on the morale of the Iraqi troops. This particular aircraft was one of 10, so that What's Up Doc was one of 10 G models that flew missions from Fairford and Gloucestershire with the hastily formed 806th Bomb Wing during the campaign. Hailing from Wurtsmith Air Force Base, Michigan, aircraft 58182 What's Up Doc featured nose art based on the Warner Brothers cartoon character Bugs Bunny. Most of the aircraft from the 379th carried artwork inspired by the Warner Brothers company. This bomber flew 8 missions from Fairford, totaling 105.5 hours, and a single mission from Morón Air Base in Spain. This aircraft was flown to Amark, so the Boneyard, in June 1992 and has been scrapped by April 1996, having completed 8,700 flying hours prior to its retirement. So the B-52s we're flying now are H models. We're no longer flying the G models. So we took what we could from the G models and then they were scrapped. And another page of pictures I want to show you. I'll read the paragraph first. In the wake of the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and Pentagon on September 11th, 2001, a number of U.S. Navy units marked their aircraft with artwork and titling honoring the memories of emergency services personnel killed trying to save survivors of these atrocities. Let's see. And then it goes on to name these specifically. And I'll show you the artwork here. So you have Never Forget. And there you've got, it says, Pride of Midtown, Engine 54, FDNY 4 truck. Never missed a performance. And then down here it says, Hijack This. So those are some other morale type nose art. And on the one that says Hijack This, it has the airline information for the 4 flights that hit the towers, the Pentagon, and crashed in Pennsylvania. I think there was one other. Okay, this one you can't really see it though. Okay, so I asked my husband, because at Seymour Johnson, we would put nose art on the F-15Es while we were deployed, but once the aircraft came back and once they rotated through the paint barn, because the aircraft get repainted every few years on a set schedule, they would cover it up. They'd take the nose art off. But I asked my husband, he said the B-52s here, if they have nose art, they are allowed to keep their nose art. So there are jets out here on the flight line that have their nose art. And I'd attribute that to these planes are a lot older. They've been through a lot more actual conflicts, rather than the F-15Es at Seymour have only really been through Desert Storm. The F-15Es are 86 through 88 models. And as I told you before, the jets here are 1960, 1961 models. So they have certainly been through a whole lot more conflicts. So these aircraft here have more history. So generally, the crew chiefs, the maintainers that work on them, or specific events, such as coming out of the boneyard and shaking out the ghost to create Ghost Rider, are how aircraft get their names. So I hope that was interesting for you. I'm running short on time anyways. I hope everyone has a good stitching week, and I'll talk at you next week. Bye, guys.